Well, we had April Fools get a couple of us recently. Maybe you avoided any of the major pranks on that day, but it got us thinking a little bit about some of the beliefs that are out there that fool retirement planners and savers the most. So, on today's episode, we're going to break down some of those top areas, some of those top beliefs that get people in trouble, why they fool folks, and how you can avoid being fooled in the financial world. We'll dive into that with Ryan Fleming coming up next. Another episode of The Pilot's Advisor. I'm Walter Storholt alongside Ryan Fleming, The Pilot's Advisor. It's great to always have him here. And Ryan, did you pull any pranks on anybody this year, or have a prank pulled on you at all?
Talking about April Fool's Day?
Yeah, for April Fool's earlier this month.
Yeah. Well, what do I remember about April Fool's Day? I can't remember any pranks. I didn't pull any pranks on anyone, but there was something that happened that I'll comment on.
Okay.
So on April Fool's Day, the Clemson Athletics decided to release the fact that they are going to start selling alcohol at all these sporting events.
Okay.
And so it was like the worst marketing effort ever because half the people thought it was an April Fool's joke. They're like, "Is this for real? Is this actually going to be a thing?" And then they finally had to come back out like the next day and say, "This was not an April Fool's joke. This is really happening, and it's going to happen this weekend." And so I think a lot of people around here are getting excited because some of the sporting events might be a little bit more fun, and it has been a dry campus this whole time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty hilarious marketing to put that out on April Fools, and everybody just was in uproar thinking it was a joke.
Clemson fans are already pretty rowdy, and so that's only going to add a little something to the mix there for the Tigers, I think.
Oh, I think so too, and I think that people, rather than leaving at halftime to go back out to their tailgate, will probably stay in the stadium now, and it'll probably be a little bit more raucous and loud into the third and fourth quarter, even when it's not a close game.
Well, I actually got fooled a little bit this year, and it was actually related to the pilot world, to the airline industry. So I don't know if you saw this one, Ryan. It got me because I technically didn't get fooled until April 2nd. You know how your phone recommends articles to you? Well, I've noticed now over the last couple of years that it's not April 1st that you get fooled. It's the second or third day after April Fool's when the articles from April 1st are starting to filter through to your recommendations, but you're no longer on guard because it's no longer April 1st.
Interesting.
So this is what got me was the Frontier article, or the prank about Frontier Airlines offering standing room only flights for $9 on their airline. That one got me because I was like, I could totally believe that for Frontier with all the like little tiny things and add-ons and ways to save money and at a discount airline. And I was like, I would do a $9 flight and hang on. And I think it started to get a little unbelievable. I mean, it was pretty unbelievable to begin with, but it caught me in a weak moment, I guess. But I actually thought it was pretty awesome because I was like, well, how are they going to safely do that? And they said in the article they were going to use, like, when you go to the amusement park and they have the standing rides, but they drop down the shoulder harnesses that kind of your arms go over the shoulder harness, that kind of thing. And then there's a little thing kind of in between your legs that you're sort of sitting on, but still standing. I was like, oh, now I could totally see that. That would keep you safe, right? And strapped in a way, but then let you just stand up. But anyway,
oh my God.
It was just believable enough to be like, I could see them doing something crazy like this.
Well, there's so much misinformation out there, and there's so many articles now where it's just a total joke, but you read it and you're just going, you catch yourself sometimes going, oh yeah, this one's definitely a joke. But we're in such a crazy world nowadays that some of it's believable.
So let's look at some of the beliefs that fool retirement savers. Unfortunately, Ryan, it's not just kind of that one day of the year that gets retirement folks. It's we can be susceptible to being fooled any day of the year. And so we got to be on guard a little bit. So I got a list here. We'll run through some of these to see why these are fooling folks. Guaranteed high returns. And if you see some belief or some marketing that it can be easily attained, it might sound too good to be true, like that. Some of those articles and some of those things that have gotten us in the past, but people still fall for this all the time, don't they?
Well, and guaranteed is not even a word you can use in the investment world from a compliance standpoint, because there is no guarantee. Anytime you invest in the market, I mean, it's risk. I think because we're in that day and age, we have a lot of these tech stocks that have, got these amazing, crazy returns, or if you look at what Apple's done over the long term, or the Mag 7 even holding up the S&P, I think people have a very warped vision of what investing looks like now, and what good returns should be. I mean, historically, if you can get 8% return, 8 to 10% return over an equity position over the long term, you're killing it. You're doing a great job. And I think that people probably don't see it that way anymore. And there's definitely no guarantees in this world. And that's why you have to lower your risk by being diversified.
Yeah, it's a big one. I start to think scam when I see guaranteed. Just
Too good
kind
to
of
be true.
I found it safe to immediately make that association, and then I have to prove it otherwise. Right?
Well,
Start there.
Pilots have all these crazy, crazy ideas, and it happens all the time. And I don't know how many times they've come with me like, oh, this, that, or whatever. And I go, well, it sounds to me like it's too good to be true. And, it might take a year or two. And then they come back and go, yeah, I got scammed and I lost all my money. And I mean, it's happened multiple times. So any guarantees, or there's no free lunches. I mean, it's true.
We could do a whole show about where people get fooled about Social Security stuff, but let's just throw one of these in there, one of these sort of Social Security myths, and that it's you better claim it as soon as possible before it runs out. And I think that leads a lot of people to making kind of knee-jerk decisions when they hit retirement.
It's amazing how much Social Security conversations have changed. It used to be, hey, when are you going to die? Of course, nobody knows when they're going to die. But if we can make an estimate on that, then we can just run the numbers and figure out when's the best time for you to take Social Security. Nowadays, people are scared that it's going to go away. I think more realistically, Social Security is not going to go away. It's going to be reduced at some point just because it's unsustainable where we're at right now. And maybe that might all change with Doge and what's going on now. But I think the reality is it's going to get reduced or unfortunately, it may get means tested one day. But because of all those things, the narrative on Social Security has totally changed.
Yeah,
I see a lot of people now taking it earlier just to get it, or hoping that they'll get grandfathered in before it gets reduced. There's a lot of justifications for actions, but I think it's an individual thing. But yeah, Social Security alone may be a myth at this point. I don't even know what to think anymore, but we'll see what the future holds.
It definitely seems like a death by 1,000 cuts sort of thing versus it just disappearing overnight one day. Like it's just going to get slowly eroded away. And I guess that's better than just disappearing overnight. But
well, here's the reality of it, though. All of us has paid into Social Security all these years. But how about this idea? Social Security is supposed to be there for us to help us out in retirement. Maybe just like a 401k plan, the government still takes all your Social Security where it's forcing you to save, but that's your 401k plan. So you almost have your own Social Security bucket. How about that?
Yeah.
I think that'd be amazing, right? Because then hey, I paid into Social Security all these years. The government forced me to do it, but that's actually my money and I will get it back one day.
Attention aviators, when you've spent years in the cockpit managing the complexities of flight, isn't it time you navigated your retirement with the same precision? Introducing retirepilots.com. Right at your touchdown zone on our homepage, there's a beacon flashing, Get My Free Toolkit. Click that and you'll be cleared for a direct route to Ryan's Retirement Toolkit, tailor-made for pilots like you. Inside, you'll find two of his important works, The Pilot's Advisor and Pilots Retire Early. Between these two books, you can decipher the 9 critical decisions when retiring before 65 and discover the 7 lessons to help pilots land safely in retirement. But that's not all. This toolkit is packed with altitude-high value, including extras to get your retirement plans off the runway and light the afterburners on your 401k. Vector on over to retirepilots.com to grab your toolkit, and let's embark on this journey together. What about the tax time bomb? I know this is something that you're passionate about, and people get fooled into thinking that they're not that exposed to taxes in their accounts, or they overestimate their confidence in kind of understanding that problem.
Well, I think that they just don't understand the problem, and I think that they don't understand what's going to happen to them later on. I think that this goes down the same path of kick the can down the street and I won't worry about the problem. And the big difference with pilots versus any other profession out there, because all these airlines lost their pensions, almost all the major legacy carriers are dumping 18, 19% of whatever you make into your 401k, which is a great thing, but it's all tax deferred money.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people, hey, I don't want to pay tax on any of this money. And they keep dumping more and more money into these tax deferred or traditional 401ks, not having any clue how big the tax problem is going to be later, because that money's going to grow all these years. And you have this massive amount of money, but it's not yours. You're still in a partnership with the US government. And you're going to get destroyed when RMDs come around. And it's amazing to me that most investors out there are completely oblivious to this until it's too late.
I know healthcare is where people get fooled in retirement, specifically about Medicare, and they misunderstand it a little bit, and they kind of think, oh, it's just going to make the process really easy. It covers everything. Once I can get Medicare, life just kind of takes care of itself from that standpoint. Where are people misguided on that?
Well, and the worst part about that is once you find out, it's almost too late. And then you start seeing it eating away at your retirement savings. And I would put that as one of those other myths that people just don't think about. They don't think about taxes, they don't think about inflation, and they don't think about healthcare. All three of those can blow up your retirement portfolio.
Yeah. What about the 4% rule? Is that a belief that fools people today, or is that still kind of a good starting point for retirement savers to kind of use as a rule of thumb in the retirement world? What's your opinion on that?
I look at it as like a big fat crayon number, like, hey, it's a wag to see, what you're looking at. No different than, they have all those percentages out there of how much you have to save of your actual, annual income. And then that's your number for retirement. I think that you got to get much more detailed into that when you start looking at true retirement planning, but it's a good number to start with per se.
Okay. But it's a very high level understanding number, not something that you're then going to really utilize going forward. It's just, hey, here's where we begin. It got you asking the right questions. It got you thinking the right way. But now let's get more sophisticated quite quickly is what you're
100%. And then on top of that, it changes. You got to constantly reanalyze, because depending on what's going on in the market or your spending habits, you got to constantly reanalyze that based off of what's going on, whether it's inflation, taxes, the market. It's very gray area for sure.
As we talk about people getting fooled, do you see those who ever chase or obsess over dividend paying stocks? Maybe that's the way to save for retirement that they've been kind of taught over the years, and so that becomes their obsession.
I can't stand having conversations about dividend paying stocks. It's like one of my pet peeves, because number one, if you have it in a taxable account, all it's doing is giving you more taxable income that you don't want. Okay. So I see that all the time. And I don't really care if I'm making money via the dividend or because you're ultimately keeping those dividends inside the stock price and you're getting better returns without having a dividend. It's all one and the same to me, but people talk about dividends all the time. And I don't know if there's mass marketing out there to get people to be so interested in dividend paying stock. But it's an interesting conversation, we'll say.
You're saying there's better ways out there to structure a portfolio and a plan. We certainly shouldn't be obsessing or chasing those.
Absolutely not.
Okay. What about the fear of spending? Just to take things from a little bit of a different angle here, we're talking about, again, things in general that could fool retirement savers the most. Is there a time when frugality is no longer a virtue? We were kind of talking about our frugality of flying, and sometimes how that frugality doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I'm going to answer this one a little bit carefully, because I think the far majority of pilots, Americans out there aren't saving nearly enough, and they have no clue how much they have to save for retirement. But yeah, there's a case where frugality becomes a problem. I think some good examples of that would be my mother right now. They have, her husband has a pension. They have plenty of money, but she grew up on a farm and they had no money. So she still, squirrels it all away and they won't spend anything. And I'm like, Mom, you guys are doing fine. Like, go get the driveway fixed. Go buy a TV. Like, they wouldn't buy a TV. They're waiting on this TV to die before they were going to go buy a TV. And I'm telling you, it was like maybe 10 to 12 inches. I mean, this tiny little TV, and I'll be over there like
there's bigger tablets out there than there.
Yeah. And so, they're complaining about not being able to see it. And I'm like, I can't see it. Like, what are you guys doing? And then, it was like, well, we'll get a new TV when this one dies. Well, guess what? TVs don't die anymore. I mean, it's just not really a thing.
Yeah.
So I went to Walmart and I brought home a 60-inch TV. Like,
nice.
I'm sorry, you guys aren't going to live that long.
They're like, you're
This
like, now you
TV
can see.
time.
Okay, great. I was gonna say either that or when they're not looking, you need to go drop that TV on the ground and break it.
Or my father-in-law, he's got a couple pensions. He was a DEA agent. He's 80 some years old. And I'm like talking to him about like, Randy, I get, passing on a legacy to your grandchildren, what have you. But let's start looking. I have him read this book called Die with Zero, because it's
Okay.
time to start spending his money, like go do something that's going to make you happy.
Yeah. It's neat. It's probably a neat thing though when you've got to tell people to get more comfortable with spending versus the other conversation, right? It's a little tougher when somebody's overspending and you got to reel them back in.
Or they're in retirement and they realize they're going to run out of money, or their lifestyle is going
Yeah.
to have to be way cut down from what they've been doing for the past 30 years.
Yeah. So at least those are kind of fun problems to solve when somebody's kind of that little bit of that penny pincher and you're trying to just get them to free up a little bit. So it's still an issue, but it can,
That's a
at
much
least it's not as
funner
big of a deal.
conversation when they don't have a
Yeah.
money problem versus,
Yeah.
hey, we got a problem.
Well, and that's that other issue that fools retirement savers. Some people are okay with that idea of, you know what, I'll just keep working, right? Either if I don't have enough money saved for retirement, I'll just keep working as late as I can, or if I start to run out, I'll go back to work. But a lot of people don't realize that that's a big issue and a lot easier said than done.
Do you realize how miserable that would be? And let me paint
Yeah.
a picture for you, because I see it happening to people in the future where, hey, I'm an airline pilot. I make $300,000 a year. My
Mhm.
family's used to this $300,000 a year lifestyle. I haven't saved enough money. Boom, I'm 65. Guess what? I'm done flying. And yeah, you're going to have to keep working. But what are you going to do? You're not going to have a job that is going to pay nearly as much than what you're used to. I mean, you're going to be working at the Home Depot,
Mhm.
per hour, because you have to.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad. I think it's sad because you can do a little bit of math and see what's going to happen to some of these individuals. And guess what? It's not going to cut it. And I think the kick the can down the road mentality, oh, I'll be okay, I'll keep working. Well, the last thing I would want to do is when I'm in my late 60s and I'm doing something that's, on my feet nonstop, or a much harder job than I was used to, making pennies on the
Yeah.
dollar.
You've heard of the FIRE movement is kind of big among my generation and folks even younger than me, and the idea where you want to retire at 40. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, like, what are you going to take your time up? I don't get that at all either.
but it's not so much that too, as that just like, you're going to retire at 40 and then you're going to be in 2 or 3 years needing to get back into the workforce. And I feel like that break is going to hurt a lot of people if they truly try to do something like that. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
Walter.
just be
I know
careful.
you got one last one to do, but we've had so much fun on this podcast, but I have a meeting that I got to get on right now. It is 10:30.
Well, we'll leave people hanging and say there's another one that fools people, but in order to find it out, you got to get Ryan's retirement toolkit and then come in for an appointment. How about that, Ryan? We'll turn it into a call to action.
That will do it. It's the best one. It's the best myth that we're going to talk about, but we
The
don't have
best.
time to
If
talk
you
about it
really
right now.
need to know it, then you got to go get the toolkit. There you go. We're being a little tongue in cheek with a call to action there, but in all seriousness, go pick up the toolkit. Ryan has put this together. It's for pilots. It's where everybody starts. They go and check out the toolkit. Ryan's going to disappear. I'll finish the show, Ryan. Go for it. And
Can you finish this show up for me? I appreciate
you got it. Yeah, this is good. This will be a fun finish. So bye, Ryan. We'll see you later. Everybody go to retirepilots.com, check it out, and get the toolkit. And you can make sure that you are on your way to and through retirement. It's packed with Ryan's books and other great material as well. It's all at retirepilots.com. That's retirepilots.com. We've got it linked in the description. For Ryan, I'm Walter. We'll see you next time on The Pilot's Advisor.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.